Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to paint a landscape, barn, house, fence, fields, trees, and I hope that you enjoy watching this or painting along with me. So let's get started. Okay, first we're going to begin our sketch about a third of the way down from the top with a line going across. That will be the horizon line. Next, we're going to draw a rectangle, which is the bottom of a barn, and then another rectangle on top of that, which will be the roof of the barn. Now, we will begin to draw a very simple house shape. And over on the right now, we're going to begin to draw a tree. So it looks like a cloud, but it's got a little trunk underneath, and then we'll draw some bushes and sketch a bush shape on the left side of the barn. Now down about a third of the way from the bottom, we'll sketch a line going across, and then about halfway between the horizon line and that line, another line, and then another line going across. And these are going to be lines where sections of the fields are, and as they go into the distance, obviously they will be getting narrower. And there you have your basic sketch. Now the first colors that we're going to use are Pthalo Blue and white, and we'll mix them together to create a medium color blue, and we'll begin to apply that to the sky. So we'll begin to fill in the sky using a fairly large brush. Not worried about any details or anything like that, just getting it filled in. We will come back over it with more clouds and details and variations of the color later, but this is just the basic undercoat. Filling around the barn and the house. Okay. Okay, we're filling in the sky here. Again, it's Pthalo Blue mixed with white. I use titanium white generally. Heavy body acrylics. And fill in with a smaller brush a couple of the smaller sections. Put a few holes in the tree for the birds to fly through. And there we have our sky. Now let's add some burnt umber, which is dark brown. Start off by filling in the roof of the barn and the underside of the barn. We will come back later and add some different colors and variations. This is just the undercoat. Now the house. And then we will do the tree. All right, fill in the tree, fill in the bushes next to the tree. Then using burnt umber, going to go across the fields and just hit them lightly, not filling them in solid because we will be adding some other colors later, but just dashes here and there. All right. Now let's put some burnt sienna on. Burnt sienna is reddish brown, and that will be background for the foreground grasses. And you can see that I'm finishing up with some vertical strokes because the grasses will be vertical. Now we will add some yellow ochre to our burnt sienna, mix those together to make a little bit of a lighter area of field. As things go back into the distance in nature, generally they go from dark to light. Now let's add some titanium white to our yellow ochre and burnt sienna. Get a little bit lighter than the previous section. Now we will just mix yellow ochre and white. You can see it's just getting lighter and lighter as it goes further into the distance. Add a little bit more white here. The top level. Now we're going to use some burnt umber, dark brown, and a thin brush to paint a fence. We'll paint it on the left side of the house, between the house and the barn, and then on the right side of the house. Thin lines don't have to be perfect. We can always touch them up later if you get a line that's a little too thick. And then after you get your bars of the fence painted in, then you can paint in some fence posts. Simple little fence posts. Here we go. Now we will take some phthalo blue and white and work on the sky. Mix them together, make a light blue, almost a white clouds. Notice behind the right corner of the barn I made it whiter to emphasize that section of the barn. Put some little holes in the tree, obviously. Carry the white behind the tree, which makes the tree stand out a little more. Down by the horizon line, it's usually lighter in the sky, so I'm using mostly white down here on the horizon line. Now I'm adding a little bit of a darker blue in behind, just to create variety in the sky. Now let's take some yellow ochre and mix it with the white and the blue to create yet another dimension of color in the sky. Because we always want to add a little bit of earth tone in the sky and a little bit of sky tone into the earth. Now we are going to use just yellow ochre and white, and keep adding that to the sky in various places. Now let's add some Dioxazine Purple and mix it with white to create various shades of light purple. Light purple. And you may say, but there's no purple in the sky. Well, we are not trying to create a photograph. We are trying to create an interesting, colorful painting. So we take some of this light purple and we bring it behind the tree, as you can see, and as it carries it behind the tree, it just emphasizes the tree more and also directs the eye of the viewer. And that's what I'm always trying to think about when I'm painting, is how am I directing the eye of the beholder. So light purple. And we will come back and work in the sky more in a little while. A little more white. Now let's mix some phthalo blue and white together to do some outlining. Outlining the roof of the barn. Now putting some lines down in the barn boards. Phthalo blue and white. I use this a lot for outlining different areas, outlining the fence, outlining the ground at the horizon line. We will outline the house and even put a little door in there and some windows. Outlining the fields, outlining the trees, outlining the circles in the trees. Not solid outlines, but just here and there, outlining different sections of the field. Now even doing some grasses of the field in phthalo blue. And bringing a little sky tone down into the earth always makes it just really pop. Now we will add burnt umber, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and white, and mix them together in various ways and work on the barn, roof of the barn and side of the barn. Just vary the amounts of color in each section. And then we will also work on the bushes next to the barn. And now we're working on the tree. And we'll make it a little bit lighter at the top of the tree and the roof of the barn, because that's where the sun would be. A little bit lighter at the tops of the bushes. Adding a little more burnt umber, dark areas near the bottom of the tree where the shadows would be. A little more burnt umber into the bushes. Now with a small brush, working on the trunk of the tree and some of the branches. A little bit on the fence. Now bringing a little bits of dark areas into the field. Now beginning to add some dark grasses with burnt umber. And in places you can mix your burnt umber with phthalo blue, because that almost makes a black color. Now I'm going to be mixing a little bit of phthalo blue, white, and burnt umber together to make a grayish color. Burnt umber and phthalo blue together would make almost black, but you mix a little white in, makes a grayish color. I'm going to apply that to the house. Make it a grayish color, almost a bluish gray color. Add a little bit more white to the gray for the windows and door on the house. Now we're going to use yellow ochre and white and work on more details in the grasses. So you can just see that I'm adding tiny little strokes, swiping up generally to get the shape of the grasses. Just going to add more and more detail. Start with large general areas in a painting and work towards detail little by little. Don't start with the details right away. Now I'm adding burnt sienna mixed with some burnt umber, adding more details. Now I'm going to continue to add various mixes of brown, white, and yellow ochre. Keep adding them to the background fields. And remember, as they go into the distance, they will get lighter and lighter, less detail. Now I'm going to use yellow ochre, phthalo blue, and white to make a type of green. Yellow ochre and blue together with a little bit of white make a light green, which I'm adding here and there to the fields and all over the painting basically. So I'm adding this color of green, which you can see. So I'm just bringing green all over the painting, here and there, all over the painting, bringing it down into the foreground grasses, just so there is variety. Now I'm making a lighter green, which I am applying up here in this upper level. Light green, green mixed with white. Now I'm adding a darker green here and there. Now I've got yellow, ochre, yellow, and white. Can make a more yellow tone up here at the top. Just to create more of a contrast and more interest. And I will bring some tiny yellow dots down a little further here and there. Mix in a little bit of yellow and yellow ochre together. A few little highlights in the middle section here. Yellow and yellow ochre. Thin brush now, making more grasses. Now I'm going to combine burnt sienna and yellow ochre and fill in different areas of the foreground mostly. Fill in between grasses of other colors. Just want to thicken it up and add more and more variety to the foreground. There would be more detail in the foreground than in the background, so that's why I'm just adding more of that right now. Now I'm going to add some more burnt umber with a fine brush, more grasses, more detail. Again, it would be darker in the foreground. burnt umber with a very fine brush. Now I'm going to add some straight yellow with a very fine brush, just little tiny details, tops of the grasses, and some more grasses in the foreground. That pure yellow will just stand out. Now I will add a little more burnt umber. Again, tiny flecks. And just continue to add more detail in the foreground. Using a very fine brush, sweeping up to make the grasses. Let's work on the sky a little more. Again, same colors as before. White phthalo blue, a little bit of yellow ochre here and there, so just adding some light blue here, covering up a spot that looked a little too dark. Just keep going back and working here and there in the painting, wherever it needs touched up. Add a little bit more light blue in some of the holes in the trees and behind the tree here. Just keep working on the sky. Now we will work a little more on the house. I want to add a little bit more detail to the house, so using a very fine brush and phthalo blue, just doing some outlines on the door and the windows. Just want to make it a little bit more detailed. Add a little bit of outlining and blue here and there in the tree. Very fine brush, just adding little touches of blue. Adding a little bit of blue along the horizon line. A little bit of blue out to the edge here, around the top of the bushes and the tree. A little bit over here on the horizon line and the bushes next to the barn. And a couple more little dots here and there. And there you have it. Thank you for watching this and painting along with me if you did. I'm hoping to do more of these in the future, so stay tuned.